What we're going to talk about today is how delayed symptoms can affect your injury claim. With car accidents, you're going to have really traumatic and disorienting experiences. Typically, in the moments immediately after a car crash, you have adrenaline that's pumping through your system, your emotions are running really high, and you may be predominantly concerned with some other things going on, like how you're going to get home, how you're going to tell your family, or whether or not your vehicle's okay. In fact, most injuries, or I should say not all injuries, show themselves right away. Some may take hours, days, or even weeks before they become apparent. And failing to recognize or respond to those delayed symptoms can really have a serious impact on your personal injury claim. And so, if you're involved in a crash, your symptoms may develop later. And understanding how to handle these later injuries, both in the legal context and medical context, is crucial in protecting your rights and obtaining fair compensation. Um, so, why is it that delayed symptoms occur after a crash? When you're involved in a car accident, the experience can be really traumatic on your body. It can be a really sudden impact, and it can activate stress responses known as your fight or flight. And this reaction floods your system with adrenaline and endorphins, which oftentimes can mask the pain and discomfort that is going on in the immediate aftermath of an accident. This may mean that many patients or clients may say right after the car accident they felt fine, but after some time they really begin to feel the pain. And the reason that the pain is oftentimes delayed is because, like I mentioned, the adrenaline. The surge of adrenaline post-accident can really numb your pain receptors. But once your body begins to return to its relaxed state, those injuries that you didn't first feel really can become apparent. Also, there may be some gradual inflammation. Injuries like soft tissue damage or internal trauma can really show up when the inflammation increases. And it may take hours or even days before that inflammation shows up and becomes noticeable. There's also neurological injuries, injuries to your brain, such as concussions or mild traumatic brain injuries or TBIs, might not be immediately obvious. Some of the experiences our clients have, like headaches, dizziness, memory loss, or even changes in their behavior, may not develop till some time passes. There can also be muscular skeletal strains like whiplash, which affects your neck and upper back. It's a really common injury, but may not immediately feel the pain. The stiffness, the pain, the range of motion issues, and headaches may not be felt until maybe 24, 72 hours later. Now, the legal risk exists if you were to not monitor and become aware of all the injuries because delaying treatment or just failing to document your symptoms early can seriously hurt your injury claim. Insurance companies and defense attorneys will oftentimes use any gaps in treatment to argue that the injury was not related to the car accident that you experienced. And so, some things that you need to be aware of is that it may undermine the credibility of your case. If you report injuries days or weeks after an accident, it opens the door for the insurance company to question whether the injuries were caused by the accident. It can also damage your credibility and weaken your claim if you don't get immediate medical attention. It may also reduce compensation. Insurers oftentimes delay or argue the delay in treatment for a lower settlement value. And usually they'll argue that if the injury was serious enough, that you would have sought immediate care. And this can really undervalue the claim in regards to the pain and suffering that you're compensated for. Also, each state has statute of limitations issues, and it's really important to be aware of the statute of limitations. If you wait too long to document your injuries and to get relief for your pain, you're working against the statute of limitations. Thankfully, in Missouri, the statute of limitations for most personal injury claims is 5 years, but waiting too long can still hinder your case in many other respects. So, what do you do? How do you protect your rights if you're not immediately feeling the pain because you're worried about some real issues that most people have to worry about? And I should note, it's not uncommon for people to say, I didn't get into an ambulance because of the medical bills. And knowing that's really important. So, speaking honestly, and sincerely with your attorney can really help to try to overcome some of the obstacles that may be presented when there's delayed treatment. But it doesn't mean that just because you delayed treatment that you're out of options. There are ways that you can protect your health and your legal claim. First off, of course, the most simple solution is just get immediate medical attention after a crash. Even if you feel fine, it's sometimes best to just go see a doctor after an accident to ensure that they're able to evaluate you, check you out, and make sure there's not more serious injuries that you're just not aware of yet. You also should monitor and document symptoms. It can be really important to document symptoms because as the days and weeks and years sometimes go on, you could have a number of issues like mobility issues, emotional changes, or cognitive difficulties. And documenting that can be really critical in proving up the impact of the accident. Also, it's important to follow up with medical providers. It can really be detrimental if we have a client who is advised to go see a provider and they fail to go see that provider. So don't skip your follow-up appointments or ignore worsening symptoms. It's really important for your recovery, but it also strengthens your case by showing consistency in medical diligence. Something that oftentimes happens, and this is a real impediment to getting recovery for the full scope of injuries, is when people settle too quickly. Insurance adjusters know that the quicker they settle a case, they may be able to get the least amount of money paid. And the reason that is because people may not know the full scope of their injuries and treatment. So one of the things you can do to really maximize your compensation is to get to as good of a condition as you can, or as commonly put, maximum medical improvement before discussing any settlement at all. And of course, talk to a personal injury attorney. We understand how treatment and delayed treatment and some of the explanation as to why the delayed treatment may have taken place. We can gather the records, we can talk to medical experts, build timelines, and we can counter argue some of the tactics used by insurance companies to minimize the settlement they're trying to pay you. So let's talk about some common injuries that are delayed. One of them is whiplash and neck strains. Sometimes people just feel sore after the accident. They choose not to get treated. It's not until the weeks and days later afterwards that they realize this is a real problem that needs to be resolved. Also, concussions and traumatic brain injuries. The issues of traumatic brain injuries can be really long-term, potentially increasing the issues later on in life with dementia or Alzheimer's. There can be immediate symptoms, relatively immediate, such as nausea, blurred vision, confusion, irritability, or even trouble concentrating. There may be back injuries that don't go on immediately, but as the days and weeks go on, you begin to really feel the issues, such as pain radiating, numbness, or mobility issues. But even some soft tissue injuries like bruising and swelling and range of motion issues. But I think we do this to disservice to not also talk about the psychological trauma. A lot of the accidents that people experience and the situations they go through can really increase anxiety, depression, sleep issues, or even cause PTSD. And each of these injuries and symptoms can require an individual specialist, such as an orthopedist, neurologist, physical therapist, to really address the injury to its core. And without proper legal and medical support, you may find yourself at the financial burden of taking care of it on your own if you settle too quickly. So, in this regard, time's not on your side. The aftermath of a car accident can be deceptive. You might walk away from a crash thinking you're unharmed, only to find out that in the days and weeks later, you're having a lot of symptoms. And the legal system doesn't always make it easy to link those symptoms back to the accidents. Insurance companies and defense attorneys will be quick to argue that the delayed treatment has nothing, as a result of those symptoms not having anything to do with the accident. It's why it's so important that you take early and consistent steps, even when you think you may be okay, to just get some medical attention, to document the symptoms, your symptoms you're experiencing, and to get legal representation as soon as possible. So, in summation, delayed treatment can be a real impediment to our success for our clients. Now, if you know somebody or if you've been involved in a car accident and you need help working through this process, feel free to give us a shout.